Good morning, Gretchen Ho. We're coming to you on this Friday, the 14th day of November, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. Juan Ponce Enrile, former Senate President, has passed away at the age of 101. His daughter, Katrina Ponce Enrile, confirmed via social media that he died peacefully at home yesterday afternoon. At least 37 people implicated in the flood control scandal will spend Christmas in jail. That's according to President Bongbong Marcos. He made the statement during a press conference while giving updates on anti-corruption investigations. However, his cousin, former House Speaker Martin Romualdez, is not on the list of those to be charged. And today's resumption of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing on flood control projects will proceed without resigned lawmaker Zaldi Ko. This comes after Senator Panfilo Lacson, the committee chair, denied Ko's request to participate via Zoom. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda. Former Senate President and Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile passed away yesterday at the age of 101. Malacanang, the Senate and the House have released tributes honoring his decades of service. Here's the report.
Juan Ponce Enrile, known to many as Manong Johnny, was 101 years old. For several days, reports circulated that he had been confined in the ICU due to pneumonia. According to a Facebook post by his daughter, Katrina Enrile, her father passed away at 4:21 p.m. on Thursday. He died peacefully at home, surrounded by family, a departure that fulfilled his personal wish to take his final rest with his loved ones by his side. His family shared that Enrile dedicated so much of his life to serving the Filipino people. They are now asking for the public's understanding as they take a moment to grieve privately and remember him in peace. In May 2022, he was hospitalized for severe pneumonia. A month later, he tested positive for COVID-19 and was brought to the Makati Medical Center, where he eventually recovered. Fast forward to February 2024, he still celebrated his 100th birthday. He was diagnosed with macular degeneration, which affected his vision due to age. Despite this, he remained active in his duties as Chief Presidential Legal Counsel to President Bongbong Marcos. President Bongbong Marcos paid tribute to Enrile. According to the President, Enrile was one of the most enduring and respected public servants the country has ever known. At the Senate, the session was suspended as a sign of respect for Enrile's passing. Enrile served several years as Senate President. Senate President Tito Soto said necrological services will be offered, but traditional leaves the decision to the family.
For sure, if the family requests, yung tradition kasi is we leave it to the family. Kung ano ang gusto nila, pag gusto nila ng necrological services, usually we will offer.
Even the House of Representatives joined in mourning. Former House Speaker Martin Romualdez said the impact of Enrile's passing is felt not only in Congress, but across the entire country, which witnessed his many roles in public life. The provincial government of Cagayan, where Enrile was born, also extended condolences.
President Bongbong Marcos said those implicated in the massive irregularities surrounding flood control projects are expected to be behind bars before the holidays. Here's the report.
Makukulong na sila. Wala silang Merry Christmas. Yang mga taong yan na kasabwat dyan, eto, mga walang hiyang ito, na nagnanakaw ng pera ng bayan, tapos na ang maliligaya ninyong araw. Hahabulin na namin kayo.
Christmas in jail is what President Bongbong Marcos promised for all those found to be involved in the flood control scandal. He gave a press conference 3 months after his State of the Nation address and called it the President's Report. In this report, Marcos named 37 individuals in the first batch of cases recommended by the Independent Commission for Infrastructure to the Ombudsman for prosecution. These include Senators Joel Villanueva and Jinggoy Estrada, former DPWH officials, including former Secretary Manny Bonoan, and the so-called Bulacan Boys, Henry Alcantara, Bryce Hernandez, and JP Mendoza, as well as COA Commissioner Mario Lipana, contractors, chief of them the Diskaya couple, and former representatives Mitch Kahayon Uy, and of course, Zaldi Ko. The president was asked whether he thought Ko could qualify as state witness.
That option is always there, except for them who are the most guilty.
Do you think he is?
I don't want. And then pag sinabi ko, sasagutin kita, sasabihin nyo, prejudged. Let the courts do their work.
But the list of 37 does not include the president's cousin, former House Speaker Martin Romualdez. Recall that Romualdez was implicated by contractors Curly and Sara and the surprise witness Orly Guteza in the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearings. They allege that, like Ko, Romualdez received kickbacks from infrastructure projects. But Marcos said the evidence against Romualdez wasn't there yet.
No, with the Speaker, no. Not as yet. Not as yet. If something else comes out, then he might have to be answerable for something. So, again, we don't file cases for optics. We file cases to put people in jail or to make people answer.
The president said he was targeting three things. First, to hold the corrupt accountable. Second, to recover the stolen public funds. And third, to implement reforms to prevent future anomalies. In an interview with our sister program Juan Balita Pilipinas, DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon echoed what Marcos said about the criminals spending Christmas in jail.
At dahil po non-bailable itong mga kasong ito, at least 40 pong mga napaigan na ng kaso ang magpapasko sa kulungan.
But ACT Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Tino, for one, wants Senator Cheese Escudero and Congressman Martin Romualdez held accountable too because they were Senate President and House Speaker when the alleged insertions happened.
Ang insertions at pag-aproba sa flood control ay ginawa ng House, ng Senate at maging ng Malacanang.
For his part, House Deputy Speaker Ronnie Puno defended Romualdez, saying the late congressman wasn't a member of the bicameral conference committee where the budget insertions happened.
Tama yung sinasabi ng Pangulo. No? Anong ebidensya natin ngayon kung wala yon? Yung Gutesa. Yung Gutesa nga, nag-uumpisa pa lang. Yung kanyang notarization, falsifikado na.
Meanwhile, on the worsening state of the Philippine economy and weakening peso, Marcos insisted that although corruption is a factor, there are other issues too. But one person who was not impressed by the president's report is Vice President Sara Duterte.
Dapat isali si Bongbong Marcos kasi siya ang pumirma ng 2025 GAA. Pwede na niyang ikulong ang sarili niya. Aminin na niya na ano talaga, meron siyang pagkukulang. At hindi lang maliit na pagkukulang, malaking pagkukulang. Meron siyang malaking pagkukulang sa kanyang trabaho.
The Independent Commission for Infrastructure has submitted its new batch of recommendations to the Office of the Ombudsman on Thursday, November 13. ICI Chairperson Andres Reyes Jr. said the Commission will continue to help build the cases and submit additional evidence as new information emerges. He added that they will be recommending that the Ombudsman evaluate possible violations of the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards against former DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan and several other officials over supposed corruption involving a 74 million peso non-existent flood control project in Hagonoy, Bulacan. Meanwhile, the ICI said that at least 3 sitting or former senators will be included in the new complaints expected to be filed next week. The commission had earlier recommended filing of cases against Senator Jinggoy Estrada and Joel Villanueva.
At this stage, the findings remain preliminary. The Commission emphasizes that it does not make categorical findings of guilt and that the responsibility for determining liability rests with the proper authorities. This interim report is intended to assist in ensuring accountability in infrastructure projects and in protecting the integrity of public funds.
Meanwhile, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee will resume its flood control hearing today, but resigned lawmaker Zaldi Co has been disinvited after Chair Senator Panfilo Lacson blocked his request to join via Zoom. Lacson said a virtual appearance would let Co speak without accountability as he remains abroad for alleged medical treatment. The committee also pushes ahead with the hearing today amid claims of witness recantations. That's according to Lacson. And coming right up, Attorney Ferdinand Topacio denied columnist Ramon Tulfo's allegation that he was part of a plot to destabilize the Marcos administration. Let's talk more about that with Attorney Topacio himself when Morning Matters returns. Keep it here. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here in One News. Attorney Ferdinand Topacio has denied columnist Ramon Tulfo's claim that he was involved in a plot to destabilize the Marcos administration. Topacio called Tulfo's allegations laughable and emphasized that there is no legal basis for the term destabilizer. He explained that while crimes such as sedition, rebellion, or terrorism or coup d'etat exist, protesting against corruption does not constitute any punishable offense. Topacio confirmed attending planning meetings for the November 16 to 18 rally at the EDSA Shrine, but stressed that the gatherings were focused on logistics, security, and event management and did not involve efforts to destabilize the government. Joining us now, we have on the show Attorney Ferdinand Topacio. Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Welcome back to Morning Matters.
Yes, good morning, Ma'am Gretchen. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Una-una ho, na isama po ang pangalan po ninyo dito sa possible plotters to destabilize the Marcos administration. Your thoughts on that? Kayo po ay nandun sa nakaraang rally. Nakita po namin kayo na pumoprotesta. Ito, pangalawang edisyon po ito. What are your thoughts?
Actually, Madam Gretchen, what is alarming here is not that a pseudo-journalist like Montulfo has come out with a list. You know that this is opinion and everyone is free to have his own opinion. They say that an opinion is like a rectum. Everyone has one. What is alarming are the pronouncements of Malacanang saying that that list will be forwarded to the military for investigation. Since when has a discredited journalist been the source of reliable intelligence for the military? Therefore, ito pong mga efforts na ito demonstrate a plot on the part of government to crack down on legitimate critics. Tinatakot po kami, ini-intimidate kami para ma-blunt yung kinakatakutan nilang puot ng mga taong bayan na ihahayag po namin from November 16 to 18.
And you're one of the organizers of this rally, is that correct?
One of very many, Madam Gretchen. This is a widespread protest movement cutting across all sectors of society. People who are disgusted with what is being called as the greatest thievery in Philippine political history.
Pero bakit ho 3 araw? Usually, pag may rally, ay isang araw lang yan. Pero dito po 3.
Well, sabi nga nila, these are extraordinary times. Therefore, extraordinary measures must be taken. Noong pong Enero, ang Iglesia ni Cristo, of which I am a member, ay nagsagawa po kami ng one-day rally para tutulan yung impeachment. Ito po ay pagsuporta na rin kay Pangulong Marcos na ayaw din sa impeachment, ngunit hindi po nakinig ang ating lehislatura. Ito mo nyo, ang nangyari, nagkandaloko-loko naman yung impeachment, naging ugat lang ng pagkakabuklod-buklod, divisiveness amongst our people. Ngayon po, napakalaki pong issue itong corruption na to. Hindi po lamang milyon, hindi lang bilyon, trilyones po ang involved dito. Kaya baka naman po kung 3 araw ay makinig naman po ang ating pamahalaan for accountability and transparency.
Well, some say it might be an attempt to replicate a people power movement, and it's a people power movement. Mismong yung kasama niyo po sa listahan, si dating Governor Chavit Singson ang nagsabi at pinayuhan niya ang presidente na mag-resign to avoid a repeat of 1986. At sabi niya, I suggest the president na mag-resign na, baka mas masahol pa ang abutin niya kaysa sa inabot ng parents niya. He should resign already dahil hindi niya kayang hawakan na sa dami ng batikos.
Unang-una po, Madam Gretchen, there is nothing wrong with saying those things. That is part of freedom of expression as enshrined in Article 3 of the Constitution. Pangalawa, mukhang tama naman pong sinasabi ni Manong Chavit na hindi kaya ng ating Pangulo. Pangatlo, the concept of people power as the people being the ultimate sovereign authority in a democratic and constitutional government is also institutionalized in the 87 Constitution. Kung magugulat po natin, yung 87 Constitution was born out of exactly the kind of people power that we are exercising now. Hindi naman pag sinabing people power, pababagsakin mo yung gobyerno. The people are exercising the powers given to them by the Constitution as the smallest particle of sovereignty and democracy.
Pero pag hindi po siya nag-resign, ano pong mangyayari? I mean, what's the goal of this rally? Is it just
Nasa sa
merely
kanya
to
po
voice
yun,
out?
Hindi po natin mape-predict kung anong mangyayari. Kaya lang, alam nyo po, ito pong rallying ito, actually, iba-iba po ang panawagan ng mga grupo nito. Hindi lamang po Marcos resign ito. May mga grupo dyan gusto mag-resign si Marcos, meron gusto lamang ay managot, yung mga dapat managot. At ang paniniwala po nila, ito ay dapat isali si dating Speaker Martin Romualdez. Iba-iba po yan eh. But ang common thread that runs through these organizers is our disgust, is our frustration over this corruption that after more than 100 days has remained unaddressed.
And ilan po inaasahan po ninyo na dadalo dito sa rally? At bakit ho ito napaaga? Kasi this was initially slated for the end of the month. Am I correct? November 30. Pinaaga po siya ng mga 15 days.
Iba po yung grupo pong yun na meron po silang schedule ng November 30. At siyempre po, ginagalang naman po natin ang karapatan ng lahat ng mamamayan to gather peaceably and petition the government for redress of grievances as what is stated in the Bill of Rights. So, kanya-kanya pong galaw yan, kanya-kanyang mga organisasyon, ngunit isa lang po ang panawagan: accountability, transparency, and a better government.
Oh, but which groups are you expecting to join this protest, 3-day protest?
Ito pong sa Luneta po ay meron pong mga kaanib ng Iglesia ni Cristo. Ganon din po sa Elsa Shrine at meron din naman pong iba't ibang grupo. Kaya nga po, meron kaming organizational committee ng tawag ay People's Council. These are leaders and organizations from all walks of life. Merong mga professionals, may mga estudyante, merong mga maralitang tagalunsod, yung mga uring manggagawa, mga uring mangingisda, mambubukid at mga dating kawani o kaanib sa ating militar. Marami po to. It's a broad cross-section of our society.
Tama rin po ba na kasama ang United People's Initiative led by retired military officers?
Opo, sapagkat kapag ikaw ay nagretiro na po sa militar, ay wala na po yung mga constraints na nag-apply sa inyo kung kayo ay nasa military or kayo ay nasa active na civil service, ay bumabalik na po yung mga karapatan ninyo. Not to say that yung mga nasa civil service at nasa active military ngayon ay walang karapatan sa Constitution, ngunit may mga guidelines po yan. Now that they have returned to the private sector, they are free to air their grievances in whatever manner they see fit. Basta po ito ay hindi lumalabag sa batas.
Mga ilan ho kaya ang galing dito sa UPI na retired military?
Hindi po natin malaman hanggang naroon na po tayo, but we expect around 300,000 na katao. Sari-sari po yung mga persuasions, mga political colors, mga sektor, at doon po naman sa Luneta, we expect around 1 to 2 million members of the Iglesia ni Cristo and other groups din po.
May proposal nga ho si dating Governor Chavit Singson. Doon din nga po sa isang programa po namin, nasabi po niya, ay kung di, magbitiw na nga po sa pwesto ang presidente at hayaan ng Supreme Court na maging caretaker ng bansa to make way for another election. Your thoughts on that? Do you agree with that?
Kami naman po, Alam niyo po, itong aming People's Council ay we respect each other's opinions. Pero po, speaking as the deputy spokesman of the Partido Demokratiko Pilipino, ang amin pong partido ay ayaw po namin ng extra constitutional regime change. Ang amin po, may karapatan naman po ang taong bayan na palitan ang pamahalaan kahit anong oras. Ngunit, sabi po namin, kung magpapalit po ng gobyerno, it should be within the four corners or the parameters of the present Constitution, the 1987 Constitution. Ngayon, kung magre-resign po lahat ng executive officers, President, Vice President, meron naman pong mekanismo yan kung ano pong gagawin sakaling mangyari po yan. Kung sila ay bibitaw in reaction to the will of the Filipino people.
And how would you differentiate a lawful protest from acts that could be considered seditious or destabilizing under Philippine law?
Ay yung pong crimes of sedition, inciting to sedition, rebellion, inciting to rebellion, meron pa pong crime of coup d'etat sa ating statute books, meron ding crime of terrorism. Ang underlying po niyan ay unang-una, yung rebellion, yung terrorism, coup d'etat, ay meron pong use of arms, yan. At meron po namang yung sa sedition ay if you want to prevent the government from exercising any of its prerogatives over a certain territory of the Philippines. So malabo po yung maging unlawful yung amin sapagkat wala naman po kaming armas yan, wala po kaming dala, kundi ang aming paninindigan na dapat magkaroon ng pagbabago sa ating pamahalaan. Ayaw naman po naming itumba ang gobyerno at lalong-lalo na po hindi po kami gagawa ng mga bagay na may karahasan sapagkat kami po ay naniniwala that violence will amount to nothing. Wala pong magandang kahihitnan ang karahasan.
Tama ho kayo, no, na kasama dun sa revised penal code on sedition is one of the provisions here is to prevent the national government or provincial or municipal government from exercising its functions, freely exercising its functions. But hindi naman po sinabi na kailangan dito ng armas. Nasabi lang dito, the crime of sedition is committed by those who rise publicly and tumultuously in order to attain by force, intimidation, or other means outside of legal methods. Yun nga yung pag-take over. Oo. So hindi po tayo doon, no? I mean, attorney? Looks like we're having some technical difficulties with Attorney Topacio. Attorney, can you hear us? It looks like we lost the attorney, but again, this is in light of the 3-day rally that is set to happen this coming weekend. Maraming salamat po for your time this morning, Attorney Ferdinand Topacio. And in light of that, we have the rally, 3-day rally that's set to happen at Rizal Park. That's this coming November 16 to 18, organized by the Iglesia ni Cristo. And it is a call for transparency and accountability in government. Up to 300,000 INC members are expected, with more than 16,000 police officers deployed across Metro Manila and nearby regions. A separate group, the United People's Initiative, led by retired military officers, will also stage its own protests at the EDSA Shrine and People Power Monument. UPI says they will later unite with the INC at Luneta. Motorists should also brace for major road closures around the area.
Hindi po tayo pwedeng tumahimik, hindi po tayo pwedeng walang gawin. Kaya kung sasabihin po natin, lumaban tayo, hindi po namin sinasabing lumaban tayo para gibain natin ang pamahalaang ito. Bahala sila sa kanila. Ang sa atin, gibain natin, labanan natin ang katotohanan, ipagtanggol natin ang ating mga mamamayan.
Up next, we know him as a former Senate President and a martial law administrator, but Juan Ponce Enrile was also the Presidential Legal Counsel of President Bongbong Marcos. Let's talk more about this with Assistant Presidential Legal Counsel Attorney Honorio Bait Reyes when we return after a quick break. Keep it here. Welcome back to Watching Morning Matters here in One News. Now we have back on the show Attorney Ferdinand Topacio to react to the press conference of Malacanang yesterday. Welcome back. Finally, we have the signal back up.
Yes, I'm sorry about that, Madam Gretchen.
Okay, Attorney, kahapon nga po nagsalita ang Pangulo tungkol nga po rito sa updates dun nga po sa kanilang ginagawang flood control investigation. Are you happy with the pronouncement? Ang sabi po ng Presidente, he is confident of three things: that those involved in the corruption will be held accountable, that the government will recover the money they stole, at pangatlo, magkakaroon daw po ng reforma.
Unang-una po, what is alarming with the recent pronouncements of the President is that, number one, he is assuring that some of those implicated in the flood control project will be in jail by Christmas, while I am one with the rest of the people in demanding and seeing accountability. I do not think it is proper for the President, the Chief Executive, to be impinging on the prerogatives of the judiciary, which under the Constitution is supposed to be an independent branch of government. Bakit dinidiktahan ng Pangulo ang ating mga hukuman na ipakulong bago magpasko? Ang finding of probable cause is solely within the province of the judiciary to determine, hindi po sa Pangulo yan. Meron pong due process. At while we want people to go to jail for these crimes, due process must always be observed. Otherwise, you will turn constitutional principles on its head. The liberties of none are safe unless the liberties of all are protected. Number two, nagtataka nga po ako sa patuloy niyang pagdepensa kay Martin Romualdez. Alam niyo po, yung mga findings na ganyan, it is supposed to be made by an independent ombudsman na ngayon nga po ay mayroon na tayong duda sa independence dahil tao niya yan pinilit niya maging ombudsman yan. Why is the President seemingly trying to influence independent branches of government or independent bodies of government into making determinations sa sinasabi niya walang ebidensya? It is not the business of the President to determine where there is evidence to file cases against a person and none with respect to other persons.
And who do you think should be the one investigating or leading the charge dito po sa flood control investigations?
Well, meron na po ma'am na independent commission on infrastructure na nagtataka naman ako, it's supposed to be independent, so why is the alter ego of the President, si Secretary Vince Dizon, very actively involved in inspecting the flood control projects? Paano po magiging independent yung ICI kung merong adjunct of the President's personality, a secretary no less, na nasa ilalim ng executive department ay nakikialam dyan?
Pero lahat po ito ay presidential appointee. Lahat po ng mga miyembro ng ICI, pati na rin si Secretary Vince Dizon, they're all presidential appointees. Do you believe that somebody else or another body should take over, or tiwala po kayo dito sa ICI?
We cannot help that they are all presidential appointees because under our Constitution, only the President has the power of appointment. So lahat po yan talaga. Even the Chief Justice, the Justices, they're all presidential appointees. Ngunit, there should be mechanisms in place to insulate the body once the members or the heads or the chairmen are appointed, to insulate them from influence from the appointing authority. Ganun po dapat yan. That is the principle observed by our Constitution. Ngayon po, pinakikialaman po yan ng alter ego. Kaya nga po, yung secretary is an alter ego of the President. It is a secretary of an executive department. It is an extension of the personality of the President as Chief Executive. Dapat po, ina-insulate yan sa mga ginagawa po. Why is this Secretary of Public Works at the forefront of this investigation? He's everywhere.
Hindi ho ba kasi dahil sa public pressure na rin to come up with results, no? Kahit nga po kayo ay gustong makakita ng mga taong to be held accountable for all of this corruption, is it that them trying to somehow expedite the process para mapabilis po ito, may makulong nga bago matapos ng taon?
May ICI na nga po, ma'am. There is a right way to do the right thing and a wrong way to do the right thing. So what is happening now is that they are doing the right thing in a wrong manner. Dapat po hayaan yung ICI. Huwag bigyan ng influensya. Ito nyo po dinalaw ng ombudsman yung ICI. Dinadalaw ng mga department secretaries yung ICI. Saan mapupunta? Matidilute po yung independence ng ICI kapag ginawa po yan.
Huling katanungan ho, sir, ito nga po, no, tinanong din kahapon sa press con, kung di ba kasamang speaker sa listahan, si former Speaker Martin Romualdez, at sabi po nila, ay ayaw naman namin mag-file because of optics. Sa ngayon, wala pang ebidensya na magdidiin dito sa dating speaker. And yung only witness to that is Orly Gutesa, whose affidavit has been found falsified by the Manila Regional Trial Court. Your thoughts on that, no? Parang sa totoo lang wala pa nga po. I mean, what crumbs should lead to the former House Speaker? Bilang nabanggit niyo rin po siya.
Well, again, you are repeating the mantra of the government that there is something wrong with the testimony of Gutesa. Irrelevant na po yung sinasabing falsified yung affidavit because the contents of the same affidavit were sworn to before the Senate. Sinumpa po at siya po ay na-interpellate sa Senado by saying that yung affidavit ay wala na itong evidentiary proof, would say na mas mataas pa ang notaryo kaysa sa Senado, sa Senado na nga siya sumumpa. Plus, we forget about the testimony of the Discayas na pinigil po nila nung lumitaw na si Martin Romualdez. Anyway, bottom line po, kung ano pong sinasabi nilang ebidensya against Jingo Estrada, Chis Escudero, Saldico, it's practically the same quantum of evidence that they have against Martin Romualdez. Parang pare-pareho lang po yung ebidensya. Bakit ayaw isali si Martin Romualdez? What gives?
Well, dun po sa iba kasi, syempre may ano po yan may naka-link sa mga flood control projects, no? I guess those have to be established within the ICI and the courts as well. In the meantime, maraming salamat po, no? I guess if you could invite the people to your protest rally this coming weekend.
Yes, I would like to invite all citizens regardless of political color and stripe. Wag lang po yung mga violent groups. Ano po? Kasi ayaw po namin ng karahasan. Please join us on the 16th to the 18th. Express your frustrations, express your anger, express your demands in a loud, forceful, but peaceful manner. Kita-kita po tayo roon and we assure you, hindi po kayo, no harm will come to you because we are policing our ranks. Hindi po tayo mape-penetrate ng mga agent provocateurs po. Maraming salamat po. Thank you for the opportunity, Ma'am Gretchen. More power and God bless.
And we'll hold you to those words. Maraming salamat, Attorney Ferdinand Topacio, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
As we know, former Senate President and Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile died yesterday at the age of 101. His daughter Katrina Enrile confirmed he passed away peacefully at home, surrounded by family, fulfilling his wish to take his final rest there. Malacanang, the Senate and the House released statements honoring his decades of public service, calling him one of the country's most enduring and influential political figures. Arrangements for public viewing are still being finalized. Joining us now on the show, we have Assistant Presidential Legal Counsel Attorney Honorio Bait Reyes III, who worked closely with the late Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Enrile. Magandang umaga sa inyo. Welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning, ma'am.
Kay una ho, in what capacity did you get to work with the late Chief Presidential Legal Counsel?
Well, I worked for him as his Presidential Assistant Legal Counsel 2022 and up to September this year. I was also part of the law office, PECA Bar. And then even before that, the family knew him. He worked with my grandfather when my grandfather was the mayor of Tugigaraw. He knows my father, my mom, my uncle, who is also the one of the founders of PECA Bar, Ponce, Enrile, Reyes, and Manalastas. And after that, I was invited him to be part of his team when the president won in the previous presidential elections.
So you worked with him very recently in his latest role as Chief Presidential Legal Counsel. Very sorry, my condolences sent to you. But how did your office and the palace receive the news of Attorney Enrile's passing? At hanggang kailan ho siya nakapagtrabaho?
Well, yung pagtrabaho kasi, I was not part of the team anymore by September. There was a reorganization, so I could not answer that. But until September, he was still very active. Until September, he was still very active. You could speak to him until last week, according to Yusek Rohel Gatchalian. When we spoke to them, he could still be spoken to last week, up to the very last minutes of his life. He was still very responsive. If there is one thing that you should know with Boss JPE, it was his, well, lahat naman tayo kilala natin yun. He had an exceptional brain. His intelligence was exceptional. Ano? So, until the very last moment, unlike anyone else that we know, si JPE, that was the last to go. Sa atin kasi, pag tumatanda ang Pilipino, tumatanda yung tao. Ang unang nawawala po minsan, which is very sad, is hindi na nakakaalala. For him, he was blessed with that, with an intellect and intelligence that is very sharp, that until the very last, he could still speak to people, although he was already sort of intubated, he was still very responsive.
So lahat po ng mga alaala ng nakaraan, inaalala pa niya for the past 101 years.
Well, sa amin kasi, when we came in Malacanang, we came in 2022. He was very active in 2022 and 2023. Would come in almost every day. 2022, we were like his grandchildren, that we would have breakfast together, lunch together, and he would speak. Just imagine this scenario na lahat ng apo nag-dinner at nagla-lunch, tapos nandun yung lolo na nagkikwento, and he would speak for 3 hours, 2 hours, and we were just in awe. Because until that very moment, you would realize that, well, yes, he was still very sharp, like everybody says, and he would discuss things na, just like we were in the law firm, na he would discuss with us, and of course, walang mananalo sa kanya sa discussion or any argument, kasi nga, he's privy to almost everything. His knowledge is personal knowledge. Hindi siya gumagamit na I heard, nakita ko yung ganito. No, he knows things personally and he's privy to those things. So, we had the privilege to listen to him almost every day. And of course, lahat naman kami, we were in awe. Yung pinakamadalas na tanong ng mga tao sa amin, I would want to put it to rest, if I may. We once asked him, we had the guts to ask him, or no, he was the one actually who told us his secret for long life. Of course, it was genes, and number 2, he has very strong legs. He has very strong legs. Yun yung sinasabi niya. I think he walked from Apani to Gigirao, which is almost 1,000 kilometers, or more than 1,000 kilometers, because he had to do it during the time of the Japanese era. And he could not use the main roads. So I think you have already gone to Tugigaraw and traveled to Apari. If you use the main roads, it's 98 kilometers yata. But
nilakad niya yun.
Nilakad niya yun. Pero you have to remember na si boss, nung nagkikwento siya, hindi niya pwedeng gamitin yung main roads kasi mahuhuli sila ng hapon. So, ang ginamit niya, yung mga sa likod, sa bundok, kaya memorize niya ang lahat ng bayan sa Cagayan. Kasi nilakad niya ng ilang beses. And because of that he had very strong legs. Of course, he made kwento of yung mga times na yun. He witnessed yung hapon, nung naglanding sila. He saw them in the beaches. Then yung mga nagbebenta sa bakery ng mga kilala niya, nagulat na lang sila, hapon pala sila. Ganun ang mga kwento niya. Nakakatuwa na maalala yung mga ganung kwento niya. No? Of course, we're all very sad that he has already passed. But you have to admire JPE for his resilience, not only when he became JPE, but more so when he was not yet JPE. I mean, when he was a boy from the province and had not yet met his dad. If you would read his book, you would be able to really understand where he came from. And one of the stories that struck me most was when I was seated beside him and bigla siyang nagkwento when the first time that he met his father. Imagine this, that the first time he met his father, he had to go from the house of his
Stepfather.
half siblings, the father. Kasi he never met his father up to the time na nakapunta siya doon sa office. May crude map yung half brother niya. Hindi kasama doon sa first family na to follow it to the letter. The map was very crude. It's not part of his book, pero kinento niya sa amin yun. And then, nung nakapunta siya doon sa building, it was the first time also na gumamit siya ng elevator. So, yung mga ganong kwento, no? And then, when he was there, nagpakilala siya doon sa law office, the secretary asked him to wait in a room. And then, he waited for almost the whole day. And it was already evening. He really met his dad and talked to him in the first time. And when he met his dad, may lukso daw ng dugo, and then the father hugged him. At tinanong siya. The one thing that struck me was when his dad actually asked him, "What do you want of me? Tell me what you want of me now, and that will be the end of it." So, if he was anyone else, I think most Filipinos or most of us would say gusto ko ng pera, gusto ko ng trabaho, because those were the things that was needed during those times. I think it was already post-Japanese War, and his answer was very simple. I want an education. If I want a job, I will work for it, but I want an education. So,
kaya siya naging lawyer at kaya siya nakapag-aral na rin sa Harvard, where he took up his Master of Laws.
You have to remember that when he said that he was already, I think, 27 years old or in his 20s. So he went back to high school at his 20s. So imagine the humility in that. He knew what he had to do. He had to burn the midnight oil, and even if he was in his 20s already and all of his classmates were of the same age. Back to second year high school, I think 27 or 28, 24 or 27. I may be wrong, but he was in his 20s, kinakwento niya, mahirap. But he had to burn the midnight oil, and he did what he had to do.
Well, Attorney, we do know, everybody's been saying that the late Senate President was a brilliant man. He was very sharp, and he played a crucial role in many pivotal moments in Philippine history. One of which is, yun nga po, he's been called in more controversial ways, the architect of martial law. Did he ever speak to you guys about that? Ano yung pagkwento niya dito? Some would say that he used his brilliance in, yun nga po, for more controversial means. And his defection back in the People Power Revolution actually gave the movement military weight. Kung dati, he worked as Defense Secretary, as Justice Secretary, as Finance Secretary under Marcos Sr. And then eventually, siya po ay sumama kay Fidel V. Ramos and led the People Power Revolution. Ano ang pagkwento niya sa inyo on this bit of or piece of Philippine history?
Well, two things. First, yung regarding dun sa sinasabing supposedly defaction. Well, we never talked about it. Of course, if you had a boss like JP, you would not have the guts to ask that question.
Why not?
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Diba? Would you even imagine yourself? Imagine this, Ma'am Gretchen, imagine this, even I know of personal friends and relatives who are justices, for people who's been in office, the highest office, they will not be in awe or even starstruck by anyone, but they will be starstruck by JPE. You could just imagine the steps he took while he was alive, not only literally but more or less figuratively, how he lived his life. So to even question the wisdom on how he did things, of course, would be a no-no for us. It's out of respect that we never ask.
So we
those
never
questions.
explained his role when it comes to martial law. Marami po nagsasabi na sila
think,
po nag-craft niyan. Oo.
I think ang makakasagot dyan would be Yusek Rohel Gatchalian. He had more intimate times with
Okay.
him. That's number one. And then number two, or it would be Ma'am KPE herself.
Oo. And then another controversial piece in time, ito nga pong ambush na nangyari sa kanya noong 1972. At one point, inamin niya na ito ay isang palabas, pero binawi din niya. What was the truth to that? Would you know?
Yung ambush kasi, I think hindi lang siya minsan na ambush eh. So if memory serves, hindi lang siya minsan na ambush. You have to understand na si Boss JPE, mahilig yan sa action. Pag nagkikwento yan sa amin, para kayo mga bata, parang lahat kami, mahilig pala talaga siya sa action. So he was an action man. Not only in the sense na mahilig sa action, sa trabaho and all. Yes, mahilig siya doon. But he was a man. He was a man's man. Na mahilig siya sa action, mahilig siya sa baril, mahilig siya sa hindi naman mahilig sa confrontation, but mahilig talaga siya sa action. Even in early in the 2022 and 2023, mahilig pa rin talaga siya sa action. Pag nagkikwento siya, yes, he was ambushed not only once but also several times.
Really?
Yes. May mga kwento siya na ambush siya, and I think may also mga kwento siya na natamaan siya. If memory serves me right, na naikwento niya yon. So, I would want to believe na since naikwento niya sa amin yon, hindi pwede naman na naimbento yun kasi naikwento niya na at the age of 99 and 100
But
during
the specific one was the 1972 ambush, which triggered the declaration of martial law. Yung po, nakwento niya ba yun?
I think for a bit, yes, naikwento niya yon, pero hindi yun yung main na kwento. It was one of those matters na na-ambush lang siya, parang ganon, yung sa several times. Kasi may mga times din na na-ambush siya na nabaril yung mga sasakyan and he was inside the car, ganyan. So you have to remember during those times, uso kasi talaga ang ambush. At saka maraming, yun yung nung mga panahon na yun, I would not want to also imagine that I lived that. I'm not that old. So, as I was in grade school siguro, or even grade 2 or grade 3, I would already remember because my grandfather was also the mayor, and we have uncles na mga judges also. So we were really into the news, and we were the old people were talking about it. Pinag-uusapan yan nung time, naikwento yan ni Sir JPE, ni Boss JPE sa amin, pero hindi siya pumunta into detail. Iba yung mga ambush na pununta niya into detail. This one, because of the
Madami siyang kwento. Oo. Wait, attorney, many people see the late Juan Ponce Enrile as a man who evolved with the times. Others say he shifted alliances when necessary. From your experience, how did he choose these political alliances, and where exactly did his loyalties lie? I mean, if we talk about the man and his principles at ano po yung pinaglalaban niya across the political colors and political lines, how would you define that?
Well, I would want to say that he was always with the law and always with the country. He would always tell us, before anything else, you have to, if you're in public service, you have to work for the country and within the law. And when we were part of the Presidential Legal Council and him as the chief, he would always tell us that we are working here for the country, number one, for the people, for the government, but also to protect the president. So, for us, and he would always tell us that iisa lang ang aming kliyente. Ang kliyente lang namin si Presidente, kaya nga Presidential Legal Council. The whole team and Sir JPE only had one client, and that is the president. Ano? So, imagine everything na from lahat ng mga memoranda, tapos lahat ng mga kailangan pag-aralan, kami lahat nag-aaral dyan. Hindi naman 100%. So, they have to remember also that the executive secretary is a former chief executive. So, they would do the legal work also as well. But for Sir JPE, I think the most thing na kailangan natin maalala sa kanya na if the changing of times, yes, he evolved with it. He knew, we have to say na from the moment that he was part of Philippine history, si Sir JPE was his own man, but he believed in the law. He loved the law, and he would always tell us before everything else, before all of this, he was a lawyer. And he loved being a lawyer to the last breath. He was a lawyer. He was a brilliant lawyer, and everybody can attest to that. Diba? Kahit nakakampi or hindi, they would always give him that and respect that he was a person, a lawyer with a gifted intellect.
What do you think made him so brilliant? And what did you learn about power and the way he dealt with it? Watching him, observing him, and how he deals with... Kasi yun nga po, no? I mean, to have a position is one thing, but to have real influence is another. And how did he get to that?
Well, I think he always knew what his role was. That is how brilliant he is. So, if it was not his role, kahit na nung nasa office siya at pumapasok sa office, if there were matters that it was not within our jurisdiction and it was beyond his role, he would always say that, you give it to this department. Hindi natin trabaho yan, ipasa na yun sa iba. So, I think that is very important for him to know what his role, and he would always tell us, know what your role is. He always reminded us that there will be a life after Malacanang. There will be a life after Presidential Legal Counsel office. So, after that, he would always tell us wherever we would go, kung saang department kayo mapupunta, if you would still be with the government, know your role. You work within the bounds of the law, and you do it as lawyers. For me, if there is one thing which was really striking through all of these years, was that his love for the law, and he knew what his role was. He would not encroach beyond what was asked of him. He would only act and react within the bounds and limits of his jurisdiction and his office. That is why I think he had a lot of offices that he held. Sometimes it was concurrent with each other, and sometimes it was only that office. But one thing remains, he never encroached on the act or within the jurisdiction of other secretaries. So that made him a team player as well.
Alam niya yung kanyang mga linya, no? Maraming salamat po sa inyo, no? For sharing the inner workings of his team right from his office. We have Assistant Presidential Legal Counsel Attorney Honorio Bait Reyes III talking to us about the late Juan Ponce Enrile. And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time.